A big hello to you all. You're watching Folk Project Television, and I'm your host, Joe Guzzo. Now, today's guest has been around and giving us music for a long time, since the age of 2, and he's been kicking around for over 50 years. And you're going to get to hear an interview with this great musician. His name is Dana Cooper. And in a little while, we'll go over to the studio and we'll talk to him. Now, he selected some of his compositions to share with us as well, and you should stick around because you're going to see and hear some great stuff. Before we begin, however, let's talk about what's going on with the Folk Project and how we're handling the pandemic. The live venues have been closed to protect everyone, the audience, the performers, and the staff, and anybody else who might be incidental to that. Now, we're working on, and I believe the proper saying is we have a plan that is mutable. It's going to change as things change. But we do have a plan to reopen, to get back out there, reopen our venues, and get people back together. And once that's done, we're going to use that guide, that reopening guide, as our policy to bring everything back out into the world again. But until then, everything remains online. And you can always keep up with the latest news on our website, www.folkproject.org. Now, you've probably heard a lot of good jokes and puns relating to music, but just for grins, here are a few more. C, E flat, and G walk into a bar. Yeah, they did. They went right into that bar, and the bartender saw them frowning and said, "Sorry, guys, you're going to have to leave. We don't serve minors." Yeah, that was pretty bad, wasn't it? Well, what do you get when you drop a piano down a mine shaft? You don't know? Oh, it's a flat minor. Yeah, what? And how do you know when it's time to stop telling jokes? Well, it's when your wife stands off camera with a scowl on her face and a rolling pin in her hands. So on that not-so-musical note, why don't we get started with our interview with Dana Cooper. Meet you over in the studio. Hi, Dana. Welcome to
Hey.
Folk Project Television.
Hey, Joe. Thank you. Good to be here.
Well, how are you today? How are things going down your end of the world? By the way, Dana is in Nashville, Tennessee, and hopefully it's warmer there than it is here in New Jersey.
Well, not to make you feel bad, but it is actually quite a bit warmer. It's going to get up to about 61 today, I think, here today.
I'm
Wh-
absolutely jealous.
I know you are. Well, for us, we've had some cold weather around here, but not like what you guys are getting up there. I hope you're doing okay. I've been kind of watching it, and looks like you've had a heck of a storm up there. We've had some snow here for Nashville. We had about 6 inches a couple weeks ago, which is rare here. And then we had another couple inches. So it's been chilly, but now it's getting back up again. It kind of this time of year it starts going up and down. So
Yeah, I have a friend that lives in Tennessee, about an hour east of the river, the
uh-huh.
Mississippi, and I can't remember the name of his town off the top of my head. But anyway, he's been down there, and we always talk weather when I talk to him too. So it's it's been an interesting thing.
Yeah.
So now you've been doing music for a while. Why don't you tell us about it?
Well, sure. Just in a nutshell, I started writing songs when I was about 12, 13, and playing out in clubs with bands when I was 14, 15. By the time I was 16, I started playing coffee houses around Kansas City, where I grew up, Independence, Missouri, Kansas City. And then I went on a college coffee house tour for about 4 months after I got out of high school and dropped out of my college education. I had an art scholarship, a painting scholarship, and I walked away from that because I wanted to play music. And I got let go from the college coffeehouse circuit for using bad language at a Lutheran university where I was doing a concert. So they let me go, and I took everything I had and sold it and moved out to Los Angeles. And by 1972, I had a record deal on Elektra Records and went in the studio, recorded that, and that came out in 1973. So since then, I lived in California many years, about 8 years, I guess, and I lived in Texas about 11 years. Was in a band down there with a guy named Shake Russell, an old friend of mine from Kansas City, and we did Austin City Limits, put out several albums, and then I went back to my solo. I had a power trio called DC3 for about 4 years, and I kind of reverted back to my adolescence and played, wrote kind of alternative rock, new wave kind of stuff for a few years, and played a lot of college dance gigs and played electric guitar. And then after about 4 years of that, I evolved back into the solo singer-songwriter mode, and I've been pretty much in that ever since. Moved to Nashville in 1988. My wife and I moved here. Been here ever since, and just it's been a great place for both of us. I think initially it was really a better place for Linda because she found some really cool work here, managing an art gallery and working at Vanderbilt University and as a graphic designer for years. And I struggled with the whole, Music Row deal, going down and writing songs, co-writing songs in offices and music buildings around Music Row for a few years, and decided that really wasn't for me. And again, I just keep, over the years, I've kept coming back to my solo career, really, where it all kind of started. I feel like that's kind of my strength, and I still love playing with musicians. I still put a band together now and then, and if I could afford to do so, I'd take a band on the road with me. But, it's easy for me to load the Toyota up with my guitars and my CDs and my T-shirts and hit the road. So that's what I've been doing for a long time now.
That sounds very interesting. I know that a lot of musicians have been doing that. Maybe they'll have one other person with them, or I have a very dear friend who is a marvelous. She's just amazing, and she travels with one other person, and two of them go around and do their concerts, and that makes a lot of sense for her and for him. And they both make a decent amount of money on the road. Of course, the pandemic, that makes things a little bit difficult.
Doesn't it? Yeah.
And she has a few albums out, but not near as many as you. Why don't you tell us how many albums you have out? And when did you get your first one?
Well, I believe this new one, I Can Face the Truth, is my 30th album. Now, some of those albums were recorded with other artists. Shake Russell and I put out quite a few. Then we had a trio with Jack Saunders. We put a few out, and I've worked with a couple of other artists from overseas too. But I have been involved in 30 different recordings, and my first one really was the album that came out in 1973 on Elektra Records, which there it is.
Wow, the old vinyl.
Yeah, they reissued it. Warner Japan reissued that album as a CD about 7 years ago. Which you can find on Amazon, I think, still. I think it's called Dana Cooper Elektra 1973 or something like that. But yeah, that was really my first. I'd been in the studio a little bit, Joe, before that, just where I grew up, Kansas City area. I had gone into a guy's home studio and recorded things occasionally. I'd gone into a place called Cavern Studios in Independence, which was actually back in a cavern, and recorded some things there. But my sojourn out to Los Angeles was really things just exploded for me out there. My experiences working with members of the section, Russ Kunkel, Leland Sklar were my rhythm section. I had another rhythm section that Joe Osborne and Jim Gordon from the Wrecking Crew, Jim Horn from the Wrecking Crew, Milt Holland, a bunch of people who were in the Wrecking Crew at that time in Los Angeles. So I had the premier musicians on that album, and ever since then I've done a lot of things on my own in the studio, but I've always relied on choosing the best people to work with, and I've been fortunate that they've wanted to work with me. Uh, so my projects are kind of range all over the place, from just completely solo things to more full-blown band projects like Miracle Mile. I did with Josh Leo here years ago, with some of the folks that play with Bonnie Raitt and Bruce Hornsby, and just that was more of a that's probably the most rock or folk pop project I've done in years.
Mm-hmm.
And and then of course the new record, the 30th one, I Can Face the Truth, I did with Dave Coleman here in Nashville, and a whole slew of good people. Oh yes, thank you. There it is. Yeah, I'm so proud of this project, and it's interesting, Joe. It just took such a long time. I went back last night and kind of went back through my photos from the last several years to kind of figure out the timeline a little better, because it kind of got jumbled, with the pandemic. It's how it just kind of messed everything up, and our time references are all screwed up too. So I realized that I think it was a year to the day my mother passed away, October 15th, 2017. October 15th, 2018, I re-met up with Dave Coleman, who I've just had known peripherally. He used to work at Compass Records when I was on that label. He was an intern there. And Dave, I've seen him play with a lot of different people. He's just a phenomenal musician. And I saw him this particular night at a place called the Five Spot here in town. And whenever I'd see Dave, we'd kind of say hi, but we never really talked. So I went up to him and I said, I think, when I met you and you were an intern at Compass Records, I think I might have terrified you, because I was not very happy with the label that day. And so we laughed a little bit, talked, and I told him how much I admired his musicality. And he said, hey, I love what you do. Why don't you come over to my studio and check out what I'm doing, and we'll record a song and see how you like it. And 2 days later, on the 17th, I went over there, and we started recording I Can Face the Truth, which I had just finished that year. And by the end of the day, we'd recorded a song, and we decided we were going to do a project together. So it's taken that long to complete it, because we started it with a rhythm section, and a week later, I think, recorded a few songs, and then I went out on the road, and by the time we actually got back to working, the pandemic had hit. And so we had to just take a lot of time off. Eventually, we went back in, masked and vaccinated and everything, and we worked together on some things. The beauty of this project, not only just the other people that are involved, but the fact that Dave is a very accomplished multi-instrumentalist. So he could lay down drum tracks, bass tracks, keyboard tracks, guitar tracks, mandolin, anything we really wanted on there. So my dog is barking. Hey, Pee-wee. Oh, Pee-wee, no boy. Come here. Come here, Pee. Come here. Come.
We allow pets on the show.
Do you? I'll
Yeah.
get Pee-wee in here. Should I introduce him? Come here, Pee-wee.
Sure.
I'll let you meet Pee-wee. He's quite the character. Come here, buddy. He's an awfully good watchdog. The problem is we don't really know what he's watching. He just, but that's
you,
Pee-wee.
you never know. Hello, Pee-wee. Welcome to the show.
Good boy. Okay, he's world famous. He's an Instagram and Facebook star. But yeah, we just continued working, and then gradually, as other people we knew were vaccinated, we brought in Jonah Mosser, Maura O'Connell. They would come in individually masked, and we'd put them in another room, and they'd sing their harmonies. And a lot of friends like Tom Kimmel and David Starr and brother Paul Brown, they did their parts from home in their own studios and sent them to us as files. So it was really we were kind of all over the place in how we accomplished it, but I think it ended up being pretty seamless, and I love the production of it.
Well, I have listened to your album and enjoyed every song on it so far. So that
Okay.
that should give you some small amount of satisfaction.
Oh, it's huge. I appreciate that, Joe.
Oh,
Well, the
you're very
response I've
welcome.
gotten, from all my friends I've sent it to, I had Indiegogo support on this, so a lot of contributors made this thing possible, and I'm beyond grateful to those people. And I sent those, a couple hundred CDs out, and everyone is just sending back glowing reviews of it. So I'm thinking of compiling some fan quotes to put up somewhere.
Absolutely, and I'll be very happy to give you something from our program.
Oh,
Actually,
great,
it's,
Joe. Thank you.
the
That'd be
Folk
great.
Project, television.
Yeah.
One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, I know you have some music for us today. What's the first song you'd like to have me air on the show for our viewers? And why don't you tell us a little bit about the evolution that made that song happen? Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think the first song I would like to play would be "I Can Face the Truth," the title song from the record, for several reasons. Well, for one, I don't have a music video of this song yet, but but this song was really the catalyst for the whole project. Like I said, it was the first song we recorded together, and it was a song. When I wrote it, it was the song that kind of spoke for all the songs on the project. It helped me decide what else to write for the project and what of my older songs to pull out and record. There were a couple of songs I'd already written and had never recorded them before. And every project I do, I guess that's the case. There's always something on there that is an older song and something that's brand new and not quite finished yet when we record it. That's kind of always what I do. and but I Can Face the Truth was a song that came to me walking around the old Woodlawn Cemetery here in Nashville, where a lot of my heroes like Marty Robbins and George Jones and folks like that are laid to rest. And I walk every day, quite a few miles every day, and as part of my exercise regimen, and also just to kind of clear my head. And I always take a little notebook with me, and of course a recording device. And that particular day, I just came up with a couple of lines. Cut down the flowers, lay them on the grave was the first thing that came to me. And then another line that came to me that day was, I don't want the sun to hide behind a cloud. I want to run and never fall down. And so I just jotted those down and brought them back to the house. And, I think it took me a couple of days to sort of figure out where I was going with the thing. But it became a kind of a confessional song about my own shortcomings and faults and fears, and with a little bit of humor injected in there to make it a little easier to swallow. So that was the deal there. And I could play it for you now. We'll see. I think you'll be able to hear the guitar too and the voice with just that microphone.
I think it sounds pretty well.
Yeah, just jump in on there.
Go right ahead.
Don't want the sun to hide behind the clouds. I want to run and never fall down. I'd be number one if I could figure it out. I can face the truth, but please not today. I can face the truth, but please not today. I stood so long, I'd like to sit down. I'll sing my song, can I take my bow? I can go long, baby, just not right now. I can face the truth, but please not today. I can face the truth, but please not today. I can be a fool, I can be a creep, I can be so cruel, it's a wonder I can sleep. You've got your complaints, give it to me straight. But baby, could it wait just one more day? The truth will set me free, the truth will slap my face. Truth is I'm weak, truth is I'm afraid. Afraid of my own life, the damage that I've done. Afraid of what I'm not and what I might become. I can face the truth, but please not today. Cut down the flowers, lay 'em on the grave. Don't count the hours, time will not be saved. I'm not a coward, but I'm tired of being brave. I can face the truth, but please not today. I can face the truth, but please not today. I can face the truth, but please not today.
Very nice, very nice.
Thank you, thank you.
That was wonderful. It is. I can see what you mean by a confessional. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
With the conclusion of that story, I guess self-reflection is always a wonderful thing to do, and when you, with the words that you use, you kind of colored in a lot of different aspects. Is there any special message that you're sending, or is it was just something that you felt you needed to do for yourself?
Well, yeah, I guess it was kind of I mean, it was definitely a very personal thing. And, when I started it, as is often the case, Joe, I didn't really necessarily know what was to come.
Mm-hmm.
When I got to that bridge about I can be a fool, I can be a creep, I can be so cruel as when I can sleep, it's like those things started coming out. And I thought, well, do I want to lay that out there? And the answer was yes. I mean, it's kind of a, I guess it might be a message to the listener, to really make an effort to face those difficult things about oneself, and then that's okay. We do have those faults. We all have faults, and that doesn't make us any less, and it doesn't remove hope, from the equation. The hope that we can learn and be better. So, you know, um, and it was very much a kind of a pandemic kind of a thing, I think, too, because that whole, what's been going on politically and socially now for years now, is so disturbing, and that was part of the truth I think that I was talking about that was difficult to face. Um, that isolation, uh, confrontation, um, division, all those things kind of entered into it, I guess, as I was writing it. So
Well, it's I had a young woman. Well, she was on the show. My last live guest that we had a song that she did, which she called "Clean." Her name is Victoria Vox. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her music, but she had a song called "Clean," which spoke basically of the same thing about division and what's going on, and it was inspired by the events on January 6th last year.
hmm
So she was talking about that in the same manner that the same kinds of things that you brought up um, in a different way
yeah,
on your song. So I think that it is probably something that preys on the minds of thinking people everywhere, thinking musicians and people that examine, what's going on out there.
yeah,
Why are we all fighting with each other all the time? Why can't we just accept each other? And
right,
yeah, so it can be frustrating, and it's worth singing about. And that's what I told her when I spoke to her.
yeah.
I'm glad you did that.
Yeah, it's an important thing to do, but it's a fine line, I think for artists to figure out, how do you deal with those kind of issues um, in a way that will not divide people further.
Right.
And and that's the thing. I try to avoid that. There have been times when I've written songs that were very in the face confrontational kind of things about social issues and of various kinds. But you know, my job is to make people feel better about themselves and give them a little bit of hope and make them feel good, and maybe make people feel emotional to maybe reflect, cry even, but not because I've hurt their feelings or offended them. So it is really tricky, and I'm a very opinionated guy, and I have my leanings, and they are pretty far left. They're not as far left as maybe perhaps they were back in the '60s, but I'm not really in the middle or on the right. So, but I do feel like there's kind of not kind of there is a need for us to all try to congregate in the middle a little better, and
Hmm.
so that's what I'm trying to kind of pull myself that way a little bit. Maybe, you know,
Yeah, I think I find that my wife and I lean the same way. We are very definitely um, children of the '60s,
hmm
with many radical points of view that people would, say, "Wow, for an older person, why are you so radical?"
yeah,
Well, that's what we need sometimes. Is to shake people up, make people think a little bit, and
yeah,
we don't force our opinions on anybody, but we let them know that we do have opinions that may not necessarily agree with theirs.
yeah.
So wonderful that uh, to hear of other like-minded people uh, that are out there, especially now in the music industry, to get that message out. So that's a cool thing. Now, I understand you're going on tour. Why
Uh huh.
don't you tell us a little bit about that and where you're hoping to visit?
Yes. Well, I had been touring a little bit this last year. About halfway through the year, I started getting out on the road again a little bit, doing various kinds. Usually very gigs outside, gigs where people are distanced, and definitely following whatever COVID regulations exist in any area. But I am going down to Texas. I think my first show is the 20th of February. The album comes out the 18th. The 20th, I start off in San Antonio, and I make my way all over the state for 3 weeks. I'm playing in Houston and Fort Worth and Austin at the Cactus Cafe. A lot of gigs lined up, and all these venues. Well, like for instance, Cactus Cafe in Austin, they are going to be a limited capacity. A show I'm playing here at the Bluebird coming up next week on the 9th. I'm playing at the Bluebird in Nashville, and they're limited to 50 seats,
Hmm.
all distanced. Everyone has to prove vaccination or uh, a negative test within 48 hours of being there, or they can't come in. And so, in that kind of environment right now, I feel fairly safe. I mean, I'm vaccinated and boosted and all that, and I'm very healthy, and I'm older, but I don't have any issues that I'm aware of, and so I'm continuing to wear my mask where I go in public. On rare occasions when I'm around friends that I know are vaxxed, we've got together unmasked, and but there's a little bit of trepidation there, about it all. I'm just going to see how it goes. I really have to. I'm not of a mind that I'm like over COVID or something. I'm not. I know that it's a real issue and a controversial issue for some reason, and so I'm going to proceed to get out there and make music for people. And my manager, Corinne Thames, has just done an amazing job of resurrecting my career and getting me out on the road. I'm actually going to be in New Jersey in October. I'm playing at a venue called the Saint in Asbury Park,
Okay.
and I'm playing at the Cafe Lena over in Saratoga Springs, New York, and playing at the Chapel Apple House concerts in West Warren. That's all in October, and there'll be more shows in the New England area. I'm sure she's coming up with things all the time, but again, venues are reluctant to really book even that far in advance. It's thrown everybody for a curve, and I totally get it. We're just sort of as I can, I'm getting back out there and doing what I do.
All right. I had the pleasure of speaking with your manager, and she indeed does work hard. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that it's rewarding on your end of the world that you see something coming of her efforts.
Yeah, thank
Uh,
you.
we are going to give her some information about the Folk Project, and maybe we can get you out here into this part of New Jersey to do a show for us. And I don't know if it's going to happen because I don't know. I don't run that part of the program.
Yeah.
So we'll see what we can do to get the. 'Cause we have to coordinate your schedule when you're up here with their schedule when there might be an opening, and I know they book way in advance. So
Yeah, well, I appreciate the referral. That's wonderful, Joe.
I'd love to
That
see
all
you.
helps.
Hopefully the pandemic is under control by the time you get here. We get to see you live.
Yeah, that'd be great. That's what we're all hoping for.
Now, since you have this new album coming out, first of all, how many songs? I could look at the album. Why don't you tell me how many songs are on it? And,
There are 13 songs on there.
Lucky 13.
Lucky 13, yeah.
And the next song that you're going to give us today, is that going to be a song from your album, or do you have something that's not on there?
I thought maybe I'd play you something that isn't on there, Joe. I kind of debated about that, but yeah, I think I have a song called "Standing in My Own Way," which is again a very confessional song, and I wrote this quite a few years back. It's on that Miracle Mile CD that I mentioned to you earlier, and it's also on Susan Werner recorded this song on her Time Between Trains CD. And Susan is wonderful, of course, as you know, I'm sure. And I met her years ago here in Nashville. She was visiting and riding with some friends of mine, and she sat right in the front row at the Bluebird, and I played there one night, and I did this song. And after I played the song, right there, she said to me, "Oh my gosh, that's my song. I want to sing that song." So that always makes a writer feel really good, of course. And sure enough, a year or two later, she did record it. But yeah, I thought I'd share that one with you because it is. I think it's something that most folks can relate to. It's a conversation I've had with myself. I may not even be aware of it, but I think pretty much every day, somewhere in there, I have this little interior conversation about just getting out of my own way,
Mm-hmm.
and I can be the obstacle to my own progress more often than not. So yeah, standing in my own way. There goes me, giving in easily, trying too hard to please, soft in the middle, faithlessly, chickening out on me, blaming that big machine, hurdling riddles, frightened and little, standing in my own way. Here am I, questioning where, how, why, watching my life go by. Man, I don't want to blow it, contrary me, begging to disagree, making mistakes in threes. Yeah, I'm wrong and I know it, too proud to show it. I'm just standing in my own way, standing in my own way, doomsayer, giving that satisfied grin, out of my way, betrayer. Don't be so darn sure you'll win. We are through. I haven't room for two. I'm stepping right over you. Open that front door, 'cause here I come, banging my broken drum, chasing that grinning sun. I'm winning this soul war. There'll be no more standing in my own way. Oh, there will be no more standing in my own way. There goes me, standing in my own way. No more standing in my own way. Ooh, standing in my own way.
Nice song. I like that.
Thank you.
I like that a lot.
Thanks.
I've often been standing in my own way, so I certainly can relate to that.
I think we've all done it.
Yeah. And you wrote that song when?
Oh gosh, well, it's on Miracle Mile, which I think came out around 95 or 96.
And it's as true today as it was then, I'll bet, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
So,
Some lessons we just keep learning, I guess.
yeah. I know that when I write songs, a lot of the lyrics have to do with the affection that I have for my bride. So it's a very I must have 50, 60, 70% of my songs are all about one person. And then I have a handful of songs about social stuff.
Uh-huh.
That is probably the second largest subject. When you write for the social issues that are going on, I know that it can be a delicate dance, as you had mentioned earlier, trying to say something without alienating your audience. And you want to say something, but you don't want to, get noses out of joint and,
Right.
create big rifts with any segment of your audience. Do you find that to be a great challenge? I know I do.
It is a challenge, Joe. You're absolutely right. It's a big challenge because there's that part of yourself that really is compelled to address these things,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't want to be. I don't want to be preachy. I don't want to be condemning. So finding a way to keep it, humanistic and inviting in a way, for people to actually to invite them in to listen and to consider
Mm-hmm.
another way, maybe. But I find that if in the songs where I've really years ago when I was much edgier about it, much more kind of in people's face about things. It took me a while to figure that out. And that is what makes it so tricky because it's easy enough for me to sit down. I can just sit down and rant about something pretty easily,
I think we all can.
and make it rhyme and come out with something that
Mm-hmm.
yeah, exactly. But it's just more complex than that. I had this conversation with my sister yesterday, who's even farther left leaning than I am. I love my sister, but we don't even always agree
Mm-hmm.
on things. And but that's one of the things we were talking about yesterday was just how, again, just how divided we are and how everyone is so pissed off at everyone else. And
Yeah.
uh, I just I don't have an answer for it. I just know that I want people to walk away, from one of my songs that perhaps does deal with some social issues,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe think about it a little bit, even if it doesn't change their mind. And of course, the people who are of a like mind, well, you're just singing to the choir there. So,
Right. Right. Now, when you do these, this sort of a song, do you find yourself wanting to just keep going on and on and on, and you have so many things that you want to touch upon that you have a 45-minute song?
right,
Because I've really struggled with that. I have songs that just seem to go on forever because I have so many things I want to touch upon. I wrote an example, a song called "Oh My America," and in that song, I'm bewailing the fact that we have come so far away from where we should be at this point in the history of this country. The fact that we came here, we stole the land from the Native Americans, we stole um, freedom from our black brothers and sisters, we stole just so many things. I mean, I go on and I talk about pollution, and it's like I said, it's just an ongoing, long drudge through. And the song isn't a sad song or necessarily a bad song, and I'm not insulting a group of people, but I'm just saying why.
right.
Why are we doing this? So, and it's a long song.
Yeah, well, I can relate to that, and that's that is again there you've hit on something really important too, because our attention span is isn't that long. So if you want someone to listen to a really long song, it better really engage them all the way through. And I have a song called "My America," which is on I believe the last project I did called "Incendiary Kid." And that was one I really wrestled with a lot too. And as you just said, it was the Magna Carta. It was just a mile long, and I just it's like I can't do that. I've got to get this edited down. I'm a real stickler for rewriting, and so it took me a long time. It took me months and months to really figure that song out, to keep working through it occasionally, and just going. I'd give up for a while and come back to it, and I found ways to kind of kill my babies along the way. I found ways to combine ideas from two or three verses into one, and just how to do that. But really, that kind of thing it's really work, as you said. It's a lot of work, and it is a labor of love. And if you feel it's important, you have to do it. But it's really you do have to synthesize it down into something that's a reasonable length, and so yeah, that's all a big challenge. All of that stuff, and like you were saying in your song, I dealt with a lot of those very same things. Corporate greed, education, uh, um, Native Americans, um, war, uh, politics, religion. I kind of try to get all those things in there in a way that wasn't offensive and that was synthesized down into about 4 minute song, and not an easy thing to do. So I think you just have to put in the work, and you really have to be really hard on yourself and critical, and
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah,
and
so,
willing to sacrifice some lines and or verses or whatever to just really uh, to be kind of to try to be objective in your subjectivity. It's difficult.
that is a tough road. Like you said, you have to be cruel to yourself. You have to be brutal, but don't be afraid to prune away the big branches sometimes, because
Yep, that's right.
um, you can combine them or give a better message by shortening it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I touched on everything, including women's rights and what's going on with Roe now, and just everything I touched on. So that
Good therapy.
yeah, if nothing else, right?
Yeah.
So I know that you have at least one more song for us.
Mm-hmm.
And is that going to be something that you have? Are you going to do live, or is it something that you're going to have me put on the air?
Well, I think putting it on the air would be nice.
And
A
what's
song
that
called
song? Tell us about it.
It's called "Always Old Friends," and it's a co-written song. Wrote with a gentleman named Robert Weingartz here in Nashville, and Robert and I have been friends for a while now, and he had an idea for a song. Originally, it was called "You Can't Make Old Friends," and there are a lot of old friend songs. they're coming out years, a lot of old friend songs.
Mm-hmm.
But I liked the idea, and because we were a perfect example of people who met and were kind of immediately old friends. We've all had that with someone in our lives, and I've been fortunate to have that with quite a few people, really. And I meet so many people, and sometimes you just meet someone, you just connect with them. So the idea of you can't make old friends never really sat well with me as I was writing this thing, and it was funny. I finished a version of it. There were several versions. Musically, it changed at least 3 or 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted it to be something that was kind of driving, not like a freight train, but just kind of moved along in a step. And so I came up with some music I liked, and he liked it. Robert liked it, and then I played the song for a couple of friends, and both of them said to me at the end of the song, "But you can make old friends." They both said that. And I said, that's the very issue that I've been dealing with in writing this thing. It doesn't ring true to me. And I got back to Robert and I said, this is what they said, and this is what I've been feeling. And he said, go with it. What do you want to do? Well, then I came up with the idea that, we'll always be old friends. We're always old friends, these two people in the song. And, it's interesting. I've heard novelists many times say this, that, when they start writing a book, they have no idea where it's going to lead them. They let the story itself lead them. And I do that with my songs, usually. And this was one of those. It was sort of like, all of a sudden it became about a couple of very dear friends of mine who are ill and in the process of moving on. And so I incorporated that story into the song. And once I played that for Robert, he was kind of blown away by that and says, wow, you've taken this somewhere I didn't expect it to go, and I love it. So I was pleased that my co-writer liked it. And and it's so that kind of became, originally I Can Face the Truth, I thought would be the sort of the first single of the CD. But as we got in there again, in the process of recording things don't always go as you plan. And it became apparent to all of us that, gosh, this song just kind of really kicks the album off in a great way, and it's a great message. So I did a video for it, for Always Old Friends.
And once again, this is the album right here, and it is the first cut on the album.
Mm-hmm.
And why don't we listen to it now?
Okay, great.
Old friend of mine, our faces are lined with years of worry and weather. We crossed the line and we took that ride. We always faced the battle together. We done right and we done wrong. Tossed the dice and rang the gong. Always old friends, never let go. Friends, together until the end. Always old friends. They say you can't make old friends, those old days again. But then why the heck would we want to? How we run and how we fall. Yes, I remember it all. Always old friends, don't let go, friend. Oh, stay with me till the end. Always old friends. We've known the best and the worst in each other. We've blessed and cursed and forgiven each other. It's hard to tell where one begins and the other one ends. Always old friends. Old friend of mine, now it's your time to leave this old world behind you. Go on and shine, I'll hold the line. And where the song never ends, I'll find you. I'll be lonesome until then. I will carry you within. We'll always be old friends, never let go. Song never ends. Always old friends.
So we have been talking about your album. We've been talking about stuff not on your album, and I think we're going to go back to something that you're going to be putting on your album with the song called Bluebird, which is the 8th track on your new album.
Yeah.
Now that that particular song has I was looking at the lyric. By the way, everybody, in the album, like many today, if you open up the little pocket here, there is a card in there that has it's a multifold card that has the lyrics to all the songs. So if you want to follow along and learn some of those songs, because I know they've really got my toes tapping, and I wanted to sing along. So even though I haven't heard it long enough or enough times to memorize it, I really enjoyed a lot of these, and I think you will too when you hear them. But we're going to be doing Bluebird, and why don't you tell us about how that evolved and came to be?
Yes, Bluebird was actually Tom Kimmel had this idea. Tom is a longtime dear friend of mine, and it's quite a few years back that we wrote this song, which is so funny. And there's another song on the album that's like that too. I might mention it later, but Bluebird, we wrote it. We did a demo of it here in town, and we each sang. We both did a version of us individually singing it. And then not much really happened with it. A couple of our friends, Kate Wallace out in California, she does it. I think she recorded it somewhere along the way. But it was on my list of things to record on several of my recent projects, or in the last 10 years. But we just never got around to doing it. And I really wanted to include it on this one, and I really wanted to include Tom in the recording. So Dave Coleman helped me kind of rearrange the song and take it. We changed keys several times there. On the recording, it's I play 5 different harmonicas on it because it keeps changing keys on the instrumental sections. And so we've got a pretty funny video of, well, actually, part of it is in the Bluebird video. You'll see something of me like picking up all these harmonicas sped up. But it was a lot of fun to record, and I just love the feel of the song. And I love it's one of these things that's lyrically, it's a little mysterious, and I like that. It doesn't, it deals with some issues in our society in a kind of poetic and not in your face way, from the viewpoint of this objective viewpoint of this bluebird flying over us all and looking down on our shenanigans. So yeah, I really enjoyed recording it with the guys in the studio, and then sending it to Tom and getting him to sing along with me, and then we took that and pieced it together in an interesting way so that parts of the song he's singing lead, parts I'm singing lead. We're always singing together. And then I went over to Memphis, where he lives now, spent a day over there to do some video work. All these videos are pretty much selfie videos. Always old friends. I worked with a couple here in town, Anana and Irakli, called Duenda Vision, and they helped me put that video together, but most of that footage in that video was stuff that I shot on my own. And same with Bluebird. I did get a friend to send some aerial footage in, a friend who has some drones down in Texas, and he sent me some stuff along with a couple of his pilots, and I used some of that footage in there. But yeah, it was just a lot of fun to do, and it's, like you said, it's a good toe tapper, and it gave me a chance to blow a harp, play a little blues harp, which I love doing.
Well, I'm glad to share your music with our viewers today. So why don't we just watch that, and we'll talk about other things of interest to you.
Great.
Here we go.
I'm a bluebird, and I'm flying mighty high. I'm a bluebird, and I'm flying mighty high. I'm looking down on the people, and we don't see eye to eye. I see the eagle,
I see the snake down in the grass. I see the eagle.
I see the snake down in the grass. I see the past and the future, and I believe I see the future in the past. I see the graveyard. I see a world of changing plans.
I see the graveyard. I see a world of changing plans.
I see the saint and the sinner, and I see the money
And we're back. I know that there's a lot of things going on out there. Now you've worked with a lot of other people on this album, and over the years you've worked with a lot of other people. Why don't you tell us a little bit about them, and then we'll go from there.
Sure, yeah. Well, a lot of the songs on this record, I had a few kind of prepared before we recorded, like I said, but I think the bulk of these songs on this record were written during the course of, those couple of years we were recording. So I had things, I wrote with a song with Dave Coleman on there called I Know a Girl. And then there's a song I wrote with Kim Ritchie, who I've always just loved. She's fabulous. And we had met over the years, never worked together. I think it was at one of Don Henry's birthday bashes at the Bluebird one night in the audience, and he invited me to get up and sing a song, and I did, and Kim was in the round with him, so we re-met then, and I just said to her, I'd love to get together sometime. So when the time came, I had an idea for a song that I thought she'd be perfect as a co-writer on, and of course Tom Kimmel wrote Bluebird with him. Got other friends like David Starr, who I've written with David. We didn't write anything on this record, but he did sing some harmony on Always Old Friends, along with Jonelle Mosser, who I've worked with on and off over the years. She's recorded a couple of my songs in the past, too. And Maura O'Connell, who I mentioned, she has done the same, and she came in and graciously sang on some stuff, a couple of songs. Yeah, it was just Elva Jones Hahn, and I wrote a tune on there, and Rebecca Folsom and I wrote a song called Walls. Rebecca is, again, quite a talented artist and writer, and deals with a lot of social issues in a very cool way. So, yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Now, we probably should tell people where they can find information about you, and you have a website which is www.danacoopermusic.com.
Mm-hmm.
And is there a place on that website where people can get your albums or information about how to buy your albums?
Yes, there is, Joe, and yeah, it's pretty much available. Well, digitally, of course, you can get it everywhere that they carry music. You get your music online. So I'm not taking anything down anywhere. It's all going to be up there for people to find. They can order directly the disc itself from me on my website. There's a place there for shows. People can see what my schedule is, and they can sign up for my email list there if they'd like to get on board there and find out what I'm up to. There's a news section which I try to keep updated with what's going on currently. But that's a good go-to place for kind of everything I'm up to. And there are some videos on there as well. I do have a YouTube channel as well too, which I'm sure you can share that. I can get you that information too.
I will.
Yeah.
And I sounded like you were dancing around the
Yeah.
streaming services.
The elephant in the room. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not a favorite thing of mine. I'm not crazy about where things have gotten, how music is listened to, how people get their music. I'm still very old-fashioned, and I want to own music. I really want to have something I hold in my hand. And I was really heartened to hear, I think it was yesterday, someone was telling me that there's a renewed interest in CDs again now, which is interesting. Now that they're taking the players out of cars and out of our computers and everything. But I want something to hold in my hand. I want a book. I don't want Kindle. I understand the appeal of that, but I could see using it perhaps in some situation, but I want a book. I want a record or a CD. I want the lyrics, like you said. I want to be able to see who played on there. And you can provide that to people, on your website or online, but it's just not the same to me. Having said that, it is very important that I keep my music on a place like Spotify. And this might irk a lot of people. I don't mean to, but for someone on my level, the benefit that I get out of Spotify isn't money, it's listeners, it's people discovering my music, and however they discover it, I don't care. Um, I could foresee things like Spotify going away or changing into something else at some point, but for right now, everything of mine is available digitally on Apple Music and iTunes and Spotify and everywhere else. So, and it's going to remain that way. I really do. I don't like. I don't think it's an equitable thing for artists financially. But if it translates into folks in different parts of the country being aware of me and seeing that I'm coming to their town and coming to my show, that's what that's about for me. It's very grassroots. I'm winning one fan at a time out there after all these years.
Yeah.
And it's an ongoing, and I don't call it a battle, but it's an ongoing effort. So yeah, it's if you want a physical CD, you can get it at my shows. You can order it on my website, and someone will mail it to you.
Well, we definitely. I'm glad I have this now, but I will definitely be looking at some of your other works, and I'm sure there'll be a CD or two in my home to add
Great,
to
I hope
this
so,
one.
Joe. Thanks.
Now, the last thing I want to ask you about is, do you sing in the shower?
Yeah, I sing and whistle all over the place.
Yeah, I've always asked that question to all of our guests on the show, and some of the people say they do, and some of the people say they don't, or at least they won't admit it to us. I've got to ask you, having been on the road for as long as you had, now you've been out there for in excess of 50 years. There's got to be at least one really funny story or good story or something weird that happened or.
Oh, God.
What do you got for us?
Well,
And keep it clean now.
yeah, a lot of these things I can't share, but well, okay. A standout story to me. It's a little lengthy. I'll try to.
That's all right. We got time.
Okay. A good friend of ours, Victor Garbarini, who's a music writer of great renown. He's been around forever, and he's interviewed everyone from the Beatles to the Stones to the Police, just everyone. And he's a really excellent musician himself. He's one of those old school music writers that actually knows about music and asking interesting questions of people. And I told him this story once, and he said he thought it was one of the best stories, music stories he'd ever heard. So some years back, I was driving down to Texas from Nashville. Long drive. I'd been driving all day. It was in the middle of the night. And I was in Nacogdoches, Texas, the oldest town in Texas. And I had just driven through town. And I made, on that stretch of Highway 59, Texas Highway 59, it is notorious for being a drug trafficking highway. And almost every time I would pass through that stretch of East Texas late at night, I would get pulled over. Well, you went over the white line, or your taillight's out, or something. And never speeding. I never speed. I rarely speed. I usually set my cruise control. So I'm going through town, get out the other side of it, going the speed limit. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, in the darkness, the lights are on behind me. I never even saw where this guy came from. Pulls me over. Very young, amicable young policeman steps up to the window. What's your name? Where are you going? Going to Houston. Oh, what are you going to do down there? I'll play music. What kind of music do you play? And I just thought a second, country. I'm not stupid. I figured this guy's probably into country music, and he saw us from Nashville. So, oh, really? Well, he says, well, you have any contraband or any weapons or anything in your car? No. You sure about that? Oh, yeah. He says, well, you mind if I search your vehicle? And I said, well, why? It's late. I kind of want to get on to Houston. I still got 5 hours to go. And, well, I just want to make sure, everything's okay. You mind getting out of your vehicle and coming back here? So I went to the back of the car. He goes, well, you see, my partner over there and I didn't realize there was another policeman, and he has a dog, and he pulls the dog out of the car. He says, "We're gonna take that dog around your car and see if there's anything in there, uh, and if there is, then I can search your vehicle without your permission. You realize that?" I said, "Yeah, I realize it." So sure enough, he takes the dog around, and dog comes around the other side of the car where I can see him. He's like, "Yeah." He says, "Well, the dog indicates there's something in your car. You want to tell me what you have in there?" So I figured that, I had to just face the truth. He says, "Well, I've got a couple of joints in there in the console. They're wrapped up in a little bag." "That's all you have?" I said, "Yeah, that's it." He says, "Well, you stand here. I'm going to go check it out." So he goes, he pulls them out of the console where I told him they were. He kind of looks around the rest of my car a little bit, not real thoroughly, but just kind of glances in the trunk and the back seat and all. He comes up to me. He's got these joints in his hand. He holds them out. He goes, "Well, Mr. Cooper, you realize," I don't remember what it was, thousands of dollars of fine and so many years in jail for possession of this. I said, "Well, no, I didn't." You didn't realize that?" So, "Well, no, I know it's illegal, but I don't have any idea what the penalty is here." He kind of looks off. He goes, "Well, I'll tell you what. You get that guitar out and you play us a song, and I'll forget all about all this." And I was like, I'll play all night for you if you want." So I got my old Gibson guitar out, and I got my foot up on the bumper of the car, and these two young policemen with their burr haircuts are standing here. They're like in their 20s. They're standing right in front of me. And it's so cold out, you can see your breath. It's in the lower 40s. It's chilly out there. Mm-hmm. And I got my foot up there. I'm playing this song for him. I play this old song I call Old Fashioned Man, which I wrote about my dad retiring from the steel mill. And I'm playing this for him, and cars are going by, and you could see people just go, "What in the world is that?" This guy's singing to two cops. I played him the song. They clapped, and they clapped me. And, "Wow, you wrote that? That's great. So you're a songwriter." Yeah. So I tell you what, do me one more favor, Mr. Cooper, and write a song right now about how you're not going to smoke marijuana in Nacogdoches anymore. And by the way, that drug dog's name is Ringo. This guy's like giving me, ammunition for my song here.
Gold. That's absolute gold.
So I did like a little Johnny Cash thing, kind of saying about how I'm not going to smoke marijuana in Nacogdoches anymore, and Ringo, the drug dog, and all this stuff. Just some gibberish off the top of my head. And they clapped again, and they said, "Well, Mr. Cooper, be careful out there now. And, if you're going to smoke marijuana, do that. Don't have it in your car. Do that at home or indoors somewhere. And be safe on the road." And they turned the car around, and the last thing I saw was that dog looking out that back window. He's like,
That's a great story.
And that was it.
That's a great story. It's just incredible to me that we have come so far and yet haven't come so far in certain areas of life. And
we're inching along. We're getting there.
Yep, a little at a time, right?
Yep.
So, is there anything you'd like to tell our viewers before we sign off for the day?
Well, don't smoke marijuana in Nacogdoches.
There, that'd be my.
And believe in science. Go ahead, take a chance and believe in it, and be good to each other.
Be kind, right?
Yeah, be kind. Exactly.
Well, I am going to let you go, but I guarantee you I'm going to put information for folks that want to give you a couple of dollars in your pocket. We'll give you your tip jar, and we'll make sure people know how to get to your music, which is on your website as well as the streaming services. And we're going to encourage people to definitely go ahead and listen to your music whenever they get the opportunity. It is good, and I can't stress that more. You spend the time with folks. You get out there and you watch this stuff and you listen to this stuff. You're going to like it, guaranteed. And it's not. I'd say Dana crosses quite a few genres in his songs. So you're going to hear a little country, you're going to hear a little folk, and probably a lot of other stuff in there that you may not expect. Definitely worth listening to. So Dana, thank you so much for being with me today.
Well, you're welcome, Joe. Thank you so much for having me.
It has been a pleasure. Absolutely.
It's been a pleasure for me too. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
And we'll hopefully see you out here in New Jersey at some point in time, and
You will.
Hopefully at a live venue.
Yeah, hopefully.
Until then, take care of yourself and have a great day. Thanks again.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Joe.
Bye. That's all I have for you today. Thanks for joining us here on Folk Project Television. I hope you enjoyed our discussion with Dana. I know I did. He's a really sweet guy and has some wonderful music, as you've heard. You can look for his website, as we posted during the show, at Dana Carvey Music. Dana Carvey, listen to me, mixing comedians with musicians. DanaCoopermusic.com. And feel free to check out his stuff, buy his products, because with the venues closed, he's not making any money that way, or very little once he starts getting back out. Now, as you know, as we spoke about at the very beginning of this, we do have a pandemic. We are still shut down, and we have to be careful. Omicron is not something to sneeze at, or maybe it causes sneezes, but certainly not something to sneeze at. So make sure that you take care. Mask up, wash your hands, do all the stuff you were doing before, because regardless of what they say they know, they don't know everything. So it's always better to be safer than to be sorry and be sick. So make sure you listen to lots of music, stay home and keep yourself safe if you can do that at all. And remember the one key thing I've told you since the first episode of this show: always keep peace in your heart. Thanks so much for watching Folk Project Television. I hope you come and watch us again. We'll be back in 2 weeks. And bye.